You guys are a great team.
What is your name? What do you do? And where do you work?
I'm Jamie Kuzer, and I manage the San Francisco Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. I'm a geographer, and I do environmental science in a setting that allows me to work on estuaries.
I'll ask the question again and count to 3. What has your professional experience been with collaboration?
My professional experience with collaboration has involved working with numerous groups to come to common problem solving on a variety of environmental topics, and that's ranged from everything from wetland policy to how to create interpretive exhibits for education purposes, and many other types of problems are really well studied by doing collaborative processes.
I'll ask it again and count to 3. How has the use of a collaborative process impacted your work, your relationships with the community, for example?
The use of collaborative processes has really helped me do a better job of problem solving, and I think that the outcomes that I've had have been more successful because collaboration, by definition, allows me to include more people who are going to be invested in the outcome to be actually part of the process. So I would say that one of the best effects has been greater success and greater inclusion of the community, which has positive effects in the long term.
So we're rolling.
Okay. So this is the piggyback question on how the use of collaboration has impacted your work. You're going to give us a specific example.
A great example of how collaboration has improved outcomes is a project that I worked on called the State Wetland Integration Strategy, and one of the reasons that it affected our outcome so positively was that we had people in the room who had never really talked to each other. They were concerned about how a wetland policy was going to affect their ability to do their jobs. And it was the first time, for example, that some of the members of the irrigated farm community were in the same room at the same time with the Army Corps of Engineers. And these were unlikely characters to all be trying to have a conversation about policy and how to have an agreement about what that policy would be and how best to implement it. And because we were able to collaborate together, the outcome was not only a good policy that met people's interests, but there was already a commitment to collaborative implementation of that policy because those people had developed a relationship with each other that would allow them to problem solve in the future.
So I'll ask the question again and count to 3. What challenges have you encountered in your use of collaborative methods, and how have you addressed them?
The challenges that I've encountered in using collaborative processes include having members of the group have strong opinions and not necessarily be open to hearing other people's views. And I think that in some cases it's possible through conversation to overcome those, and in others I feel like it's a challenge that I would want some help on, which is how do you encourage people to really be open to hearing another person's viewpoint, because in the end our ability to hear everyone's viewpoint will allow us to find our commonalities.
Okay. So I'll ask you to pose the question related to what we just talked about for the trainer on a count of 3.
I would really appreciate getting some help in dealing with a concern that I have about data and information that we need in order to have a successful outcome. I would like to have assistance in figuring out how to use the collaborative process to identify exactly what information we need in order to be a success so that we can focus our resources more effectively on only gathering the data that we really need and getting help on figuring out what do we do if we find out we can't get the data that we need. Are we still going to be able to proceed on our project?
I'll ask it again. What would you say to your peers in the coastal management community who are hesitant or skeptical to adopt a collaborative approach in their work?
I would encourage people who are skeptical about the process to just hear about how successful it has been. I think that sometimes when we're trying to learn new ways of doing business that we hesitate because we aren't really sure how to do it, and hesitating because we don't know how to do it is often the source of the skepticism. And I also think that sometimes people think that it's somehow going to be more time-consuming and harder, when in fact, although there may be aspects of it that feel more time-consuming, the partnerships that blossom out of it end up helping us in the end in a way that's just so powerful that I think people get convinced to overcome that skepticism by seeing the success and understanding that they can get the training for the parts that they don't know how to do.
It's so nice to end on a high note. Check. I'm just like circling. Okay. Additional thoughts, probing questions, Dr. Field?
We really walked right down the list and covered it. Because one of my big things is the outcomes, the skepticisms, the barriers, asking a question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well...
Did we ask the key question?
What does it take to do it well? Not the nearest question.
No, and I might be in the wrong category, but one of the perception of,
There it is. It is a cormorant. No, it's an anhinga. That's why I didn't know the name. I mean the sound.
I'll ask the question again and count to 3. What does it take to do collaboration well, to really make it work?
What it takes to make collaboration work really well is enthusiasm for the idea, so that when you have the slow points along the way, you can remind yourself about the value of the process. So I think that commitment to that kind of an outcome and having all of the members of the group be clear about that at the beginning is a good way to just get everyone on the same footing at the outset, so that there's a carry-through, a sustaining quality to the idea of what that process is. And that's the biggest key to success, because when people agree to that and commit to it at the beginning, it gives you the momentum and the sustaining qualities that you need to overcome any rough spots that come along the way.
Why are the reserves, or the NEARs, uniquely suited to contribute to or lead collaborative projects or programs?
The reserves are uniquely suited to leading collaborative processes because we already, within the work that we do in our own groups, work on integrating many different topics into the same outcomes. We already work on integrating science, education, and research, and we already are doing training, and so we're already thinking about it from a holistic process. So we are successful at that because we live that process in how we do our everyday work. And collaborative processes in these other types of projects is extending that out into a new community of partners and people and communities who could benefit from that process.